everyone, it's Reagan and welcome back to another video. Today I have quite the giant book haul for you guys. I'm not gonna lie, I just feel like at the beginning of the year, I'm just so inspired to read generally, so I went ahead and picked up quite a few titles for myself, either some long-standing, very popular series, some new releases that I already have pre-ordered that have come in the mail, and just in general, some books I've heard excellent things about that I just wanted to pick up and have on hand for my TBRs throughout the year. So this book haul is one I'm personally very excited about, fueled by many top books of the year videos. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right in. The first set of books I'm of course going to show off are the January selects from Book of the Month, who I am working with for this video. Before I dive into the book themselves, a little info about this service if you're not familiar. Book of the Month is an online monthly book subscription service. Every single month they curate a selection of 5 titles from a variety of authors, voices, genres, always new releases, always hardcover, and they're sent directly to your door. Every month you can select one book for $14.99 and add up to 2 additional books for $9.99 each. It's super easy to skip a month if you're not interested, and of course I always have a discount code where you can get your first box for only $9.99 if you use the code NEWBOOKS. This month the selects are really amazing. Outside of the 5 titles themselves, the add-on titles this month are also exceptional. One of them is A City We Became by N.K. Jemisin, which made my top list of the year, so definitely check it out. But I'm gonna obviously start this video off with the 5 books for this month, starting with Outlawed by Anna North, which I feel like I have seen everywhere. Honestly, everything about this book calls out to my name. The catchline is, in the year of our Lord 1894, I became an outlaw. On the day of her wedding, 17-year-old Ada's life is looking pretty good. She's marrying the man she loves. She's an apprentice to her mother, who's a very respected midwife in town. But after a year of marriage and Ada still not having children, she's starting to get concerned because in her small town, barren women are hung as suspected witches. So she kind of has to take matters and her life in her own hands, and she decides to flee and join a group of outlaws run by a very charismatic individual called the Kid. They decide to hatch a very treacherous plan in an attempt to create a safe place for other outcasted women. However, Ada is unsure if she wants to proceed, and she kind of has to grapple with deciding to go all in on being an outlaw or possibly returning to her previous life. The vibe of this book really calls out to me, this sort of Old West setting, a determined heroine trying to make a name in life for herself. It sounds honestly very, very cool. And I also love the cover, just as a sidebar. So yeah, this is a book I hope to actually get to pretty soon, and the first book you can select from this month. From there, I have The Removed from Brandon Hobson, and this follows a family. And in the 15 years that have passed since the tragic death of their youngest son, Ray Ray, the Akota family has been suspended in private grief. They've all kind of broken off from one another, and they're all kind of living separate individual lives, dealing and processing their grief in their own way. However, there is a yearly bonfire that brings this family back together, and this novel says to actually deeply draw on Cherokee folklore. This is said to seamlessly blend real and the spiritual, and is said to be a meditation on family grief, home, and the power of stories on a both personal and ancestral level. I've heard excellent things about this. I know Brandon Hobson is an incredibly celebrated author, and he has numerous works that have won countless awards, so I'm excited to have this on my shelf, and also one that I definitely want to prioritize to read at some point this year. But yeah, I think this is going to be an incredibly emotional novel, but one that is going to be really powerful as well. Next selection is The Prophets by Robert Jones Jr. And this is said to be a singular and stunning debut following the love and life of 2 enslaved individuals on a plantation in the Deep South, and about the refuge they find in each other, but also a deep betrayal that they both experience. I'm honestly just going to read a snippet here from the synopsis itself, as I think it's apt and wonderfully written. It is said the prophets masterly reveals the pain, the suffering of inheritance, but also shot through with hope, beauty, and truth, portraying the enormous heroic power of love. This is another novel I have seen a lot in the book community, as more and more readers and reviewers have been picking this up and saying excellent things about it. Obviously, the setting and the topics of this novel are incredibly heavy, but I also personally think it's an excellent selection to have for this month as well. The next book that I have is The Survivors by Jane Harper, and I'm not gonna lie, the synopsis is incredibly vague, and is definitely a choice and on purpose. This is said to be a deeply atmospheric, mysterious, and almost like heart-pumping novel. I'm not kidding, like this is probably one of the shortest descriptors I have read in a while. This essentially follows our main character Kirian, whose life was changed forever after a reckless mistake led to devastating consequences. And this guilt begins to resurface when he travels back to a small coastal community that he used to call home with his young family. His family is struggling, and between them is their absent brother Finn, and when a dead body is discovered on the beach, everything begins to change. Again, a very vague, ominous description, but it appears to be a very atmospheric, sea town based mystery and family drama, kind of giving me sort of like Broadchurch vibes. I could be very, very wrong about that, but it definitely does sound intriguing and I'm excited to add it to my shelf. And the last book of the month selection this month is a fun one and a rom-com to maybe lighten up your day. And that is The Dating Plan by Sarah Desai. And this is a fake dating escalated to fake fiance rom-com love story set in San Francisco, and it just sounds so cute. This follows our main character Daisy Patel, who is a software engineer that has most everything in her life planned out, but the one thing that she cannot figure out is bosses and boys. She's honestly very happy with her life and is personally not looking for love at the moment, so unfortunately she can't deliver her family the thing they want most, a marriage. So she decides to take matters into her own hand and ask her childhood crush to be her fake fiance to kind of help dupe her parents for a bit. Obviously, this is a fake dating, fake marriage trope, so I'm assuming this childhood friendship is gonna turn to love as sparks begin to fly. I personally love this particular trope in rom-com novels. I also think this is kind of interesting. It's set sort of in the tech world in San Francisco. I think the love interest is a venture capitalist, but overall this just sounds like a lot of fun and will bring a smile to my face, and in general, I can't say no to this trope, so yeah. Alrighty guys, those are the 5 books you can select from Book of the Month this month. Again, I'll have a link to their site down below, as well as the coupon code to get your first box for $9.99, but now let's jump into the rest of the books. I'm so excited about the rest of these books, and I feel like I'll be reading quite a few of them pretty immediately. The first one is one I plan to read next month. I just cannot stop thinking about it, and that is The Parable of Sour by Octavia E. Butler. So, Octavia E. Butler is one of the most renowned and celebrated sci-fi writers of our time, and a lot of her works have recently been getting more and more attention, and I also know that quite a few of these are also being turned into separate TV adaptations, which is really exciting. So many of her books I'm really interested in reading, but I decided to start with this one because I have seen a lot of recent reviews of it on BookTube, and it just in general really intrigued me. And this is set in a world where a global crisis that occurred in the early 2020s, ouch, has set the society of California upside down. There's water shortages, and in general, like, it is a fight and fend for yourself kind of society, and any vulnerability or weakness can make you no longer able to survive. We follow our main character Lauren, who lives in a gated community with her family, sheltered from the surrounding anarchy. Something unique to our main character is that she has like hyper empathy, meaning that she deeply feels and understands the emotions of everyone around her. And Lauren must work to make her voice heard to protect herself, her family, and her community. But it says, what begins as a fight for survival soon leads to something much more, the birth of a new faith and a startling vision of human destiny. Again, I've heard literally nothing but incredible things about this particular story. There's technically a sequel to this as well, but I've heard you can just read just this particular novel. It can be viewed and read as a standalone. I hope to get to this very, very soon. And yeah, I'm very excited to own this, to have this, and to read this. Next, I feel like is a book a lot of you guys are gonna be excited about. There is a whole fandom around this author, this series, so we'll just see. And that is The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. The first book to the First Law trilogy, and the first book to many books, I believe, that are set in this world itself. I hear this is a very character-driven, grim, dark fantasy story, which I feel like I'm finally ready for. I've known about this series for a long time, I've been interested, but for the most part it hasn't really called out to me. But just hearing essentially non-stop love and obsession for this series, I finally broke and I bought the first book. Obviously I do have some series priorities before I can get to this, but I bought it. It's definitely on my radar and I hope to read it at some point soon. But this, I believe, is a multi-perspective story that is dark and very gruesome and very, very bloody. And I believe it's also said to be wickedly funny and packed full of plot and adventure. I think it might be set on the precipice of war. I'm not entirely sure. And I do feel like it might be kind of a slow burn, as I feel like this is very character driven, but please correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, I've heard lots about this. I'm excited to finally add it to my collection, and I do hope to read it at some point this year. Next up is a pre-order that arrived already for 2021, and that is Persephone Seashell by Stina. And if you watched my most anticipated books of 2021, if not, I'll leave it linked down below. This was a book that was on there. It's described as being for fans of The Mandalorian and Cowboy Bebop, which I love both of those things very, very much. It's set on like this desolate backwater planet that for the most part has been left alone. But all of a sudden, this sort of galactic corporation has its eyes on it for some of its natural resources. We follow two main characters. One is kind of like the tavern owner, so therefore they know everything and kind of connect people together. And the other is an ex-Marine and is kind of in charge of this wayward band of cast-off assassins and soldiers. And I believe they work together in some capacity to overthrow this corporation. This is said to be the first book to a new space opera series. I also believe it has a queer romance between the two main characters. The cover is stunning. I hope this is so much fun. It just has a lot of charisma set in space. I'm thrilled to have it. I can't believe it's already out, you know? I got it. Next is a book that I just saw on so many lists, I had to grab it. And that is Allllll by Darcy Little Badger and illustrations by Ravina Kai. I just feel like this is going to be the most beautiful, atmospheric, and I also believe it's actually possibly middle grade. There's illustrations throughout this novel as well, and it's just calling my name and something I just think I'm going to love. And this is set in America that is said to be quite similar to our own. There's friends, there's homework, ice cream, but there's a very key difference. But it is America that has been shaped dramatically by the magic, monsters, and legends of its people, both indigenous and not. And we follow our main character, Allllll, who can actually raise the dead. And at the beginning of the story, Allllll is confronted with the recent death of her beloved cousin. And in her town, they're trying to keep it quiet. No one should investigate it, but she is not going to take that or stand by that quietly. So she begins to go on a mission and a quest to uncover the truth and also work to protect her family. This is a novel I've heard excellent things about. I definitely think it's going to be darker in tone. This is said to be an incredible speculative fiction novel, and again, something I want to read soon. My TBR is absolutely out of control. Somebody help me. Next is a book I have heard so many excellent things about, but I'll say Erin from Booked and Busy was the reason why I ultimately decided to buy this. Just like her reading it and telling me, you know, elements of it, I was like, buzzwords galore, I need to get that. And that is The Sword of Kaigen by M.L. Wong. This is actually, I believe, a self-published novel, and it's a standalone. So this is, you know, completed from beginning to end. It's not like first book to a 10-book series. Like, you can read this and get the whole story and be done. The reason why I was particularly sold about this novel is it's said to have an elemental magic component that is very reminiscent to Avatar: The Last Airbender, but way, way darker. Actually, there's a quote that says, "The poppy war darkness meets the last Airbender's elemental magic." And honestly, didn't need to hear an additional thing about it. I wanted to just pick this up right away. I believe this is a multi-perspective story, but it might primarily follow a son and a mother. The son, Momomaru, has been born into a very legendary fighting family, and for the most part, he's really just interested in dedicating his life to becoming a powerful soldier and protecting his family and his homeland from any outside force. But when an outsider arrives, he begins to question a lot of what he's been told about the peace within the land. We also follow Mizaki, who, when she became a wife and a mother, she kind of hid away her sword, kind of putting her fighting life behind her. But when her son begins to ask her questions, she kind of begins to question that decision. This just sounds so good, to put it frankly. The magic I hear is just so well crafted and interesting. I hear it's dark and very political and like a satisfying arc from beginning to end. I feel like I don't read a lot of epic standalone fantasy, so I'm really curious to see how this plays out. But yeah, I grabbed this. Next is just a beautiful collector's edition I had to add to my shelf. It was actually a gift, so thank you very much to a member of my family who got this for me for the holidays. And that is the illustrated edition to The Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. They're releasing these, I think, yearly, and they now have 2 of the 3 of the Fireseer trilogy out, and I hope they just keep going because these are honestly stunning. They have like no dust jacket, like the end pages are fully illustrated, and there's full color illustrations throughout this as well, which are just a lovely addition to this tale. Obviously, the Farseer trilogy is one of my favorite trilogies I read last year. Robin Hobb is one of my favorite authors of all time now, so To say I'm interested in collecting collector's editions of her books is an understatement. There are so many I want. There's actually like these like leather-bound versions that I've been kind of keeping my eye on, but I obviously don't have a lot of book space. I will probably grab the second one at some point soon. I really feel like eventually I'm gonna want to reread these like in the next couple years, so I'll definitely pick these guys up because of how beautiful the illustrations are, but they're stunning. I couldn't say no. This is who I am. Speaking of beautiful collector's editions, I also have this stunning box set from Illumicrate, which was kindly sent to me from them, of Naomi Novak's 2 novels. They basically created like a special edition signed by the author, and I will show them to you. So these are the stunning UK editions of both of these. We have Uprooted and Spinning Silver. They also have Sprayed Edges, and they're signed by the author. These are some of my favorite books of all time, and I actually own the UK editions of these, so I'm thinking of actually doing a giveaway of those editions on my Instagram, so I'll have that link down below. I'll probably announce something over there in the coming days. But yeah, these are beautiful. They also have the beautiful reading ribbon so you can keep track of your place. I just couldn't say no, guys. I'm a sucker for these kind of special editions, especially for some of my favorite series. I'm a book collector after all, along with being a reader. I will say Illumicrate releases quite a few of these like special reprints of some very popular series, so give them a follow if this is something you're also interested in. I know they released some recent beautiful covers for the Poppy War. They do a lot of Cassandra Clare books, V.E. Schwab books, but I just love these. So again, big thank you to them for sending these my way. And the last book I have to show off I got from Elliot Brooks' channel. So again, I'll have her channel linked down below. Another great fantasy booktuber, but she talked about this book quite a bit. It is Senlin Ascends by Josiah Bancroft. This particularly called out to me because it's kind of been described, at least by her, as kind of a literary fiction leaning fantasy novel, and I won't lie, that's definitely a buzzword that I personally enjoy. Like, I love lofty, flowery writing, and maybe just like a book that's kind of hyper focused on an individual in a fantasy setting. Like, it doesn't have to be epic for me to be interested, if that makes sense. This also sounds bizarre, but it's said to be an extraordinary debut, beautifully written, highly engaging, page-turning masterpiece. And this basically follows a mild-mannered headmaster named Thomas Senlin, who prefers to keep his adventures safely contained within the books he reads. But when he loses his wife on their dream honeymoon, he then is very unprepared for all the dramatic things that happen after that, because he has to enter the Tower of Babel, a world of geniuses and tyrants and luxury and menace, and work his way through it to save his wife. It sounds bizarre, and I feel like the writing style is gonna be very captivating and strange. I love weird fantasy books, so I'm hoping this really delivers in that capacity. I don't know, like unique, interesting, all those things call out to me. And this cover also I find very unusual in a way that I like quite a bit. Alrighty guys, those are all the books I've picked up in the last month. Let me know down below some books you've read recently, as I would love to know, and I will see you guys soon with another video soon.